Hello everybody, this is CJ Wiley with More Adventures on the Road. I'm back here in the swamp land. I'm in an area right now that I got to be a little careful of because there are a lot of alligators. Check this out. Yeah, this is a lake that goes quite a ways. You can walk clear around this lake. I haven't ever walked all the way around it, but I come out here every day. Me and my staff. I got a whole martial arts routine I do every day that varies a little bit, but I've been doing the same type stuff for, God, years and years and years, thousands and thousands of hours. But it just enhances everything in my life, so it's good to do, especially my pool game. I've shown, that video of some of the first level exercises that you can do to get a powerful pool stroke within 3 weeks. Some people have said they're doing it, within 3 days. It doesn't take long. See, the cue stick is too light for, to make changes. So you have to, either put weight on your cue, which I've done before. That doesn't really work very well. Or just use something exaggerated in length and weight, I think. And that's what this is all about. It's 7 feet tall. Can't put chalk on it, but it's really beneficial to use to exercise really every joint in the body. I use it for even leg strength, put it behind my back and basically get in like a martial arts horse position, and I can hold it for about 3 minutes. My second degree black belt test, I had to hold 17 different positions for 2 minutes apiece. It was 34 minutes, and that was brutal. Every position was different in this form that we did that exercises every joint and muscle in the body. So anyway, here's the trail. It's surreal back here. So I was remembering, I was talking about Rick Thompson, and one of the other places I used to go a lot to gamble, play, and pool when I was 16, I started going to Omaha, Nebraska. And it was about a 5-hour drive from where I lived in Green City, Missouri. I remember one time, just for a challenge, I drove all the way there without using my hands on the steering wheel. I just used my knee and leg, and man, I'd be multitasking. I'd be eating a sandwich and drinking something and driving with my knee, and I was going through the country one time, and I went across these railroad tracks right as a train. I mean, it made my heart pound for about 2 minutes because it barely missed me. But there wasn't any warning. Usually they have lights and stuff to warn you that there's a train coming, or maybe I just missed it. Now, I'm not advising this. I don't claim that was a smart thing to do. It was just my personality. I've always been adventuresome, and I've told the stories of borrowing my friend's car, John Emmerich, and when I was 15, before I had a driver's license, and driving from Kirksville, Missouri, which was about 22 miles from where I'm from, to Columbia, Missouri, to the Columbia Billiards Center, and play with all those guys there, Craig Bickford and Tom Draper and Keith and Donnie and Big Al. They had a music store across the street, and Phil was the guy that owned the place. There's a mailman, BJ, we used to gamble with all the time, and there's just a lot of action there. But I remember giving one of their best players in Donnie's basement on the bar table, I gave him the 6-ball, ran 5 racks in a row, twice in a row, when I was, I think I was 16, either 16 or 17. So I just didn't have the seasoning until I played guys like Vernon Elliott, the Faceless Man, and Omaha John and Dalton Leone and Weldon Rogers, and of course Strong Arm John. See, we played that game, the two-shot shootout game that required a lot of strategy and a lot of skill because we had to perform the three-way shots all the time. And as I've said before, they've taken that out of the consciousness of the pool world for some reason. Somehow, I saw it happen, but I got away from pool for 7 years, so I missed a lot during that time. When I knew it wasn't going to be on TV, I lost interest. I did all the TV events for the Professional Cue Sports Association, the professional men, from 96 to 99. And then someday I may tell why I got out of pool. It was for political reasons. That's probably why I don't like politicians, because I know how underhanded they can be, and I got put in a trap by two of them. Real underhanded, but I'm not gonna tell that story. One of them's no longer with us, so I've just kind of forgiven and forgot about that, but it'll work out for the best. Check this out. Yeah, this is, I see snakes out here and alligators, and there's lots of birds, and it's just surreal. So anyway, yeah, we used to go to Omaha to Big John's. That's still there, and I'm talking about going there when I was 16, so that's 42 years ago, and it's still going. It's certainly produced a lot of money in its time, but of course Omaha John was the best player in Omaha. Mike Highland, Bucky Carroll, we used to gamble with him. He was a character. And a guy named Cashman, he ran 13 holes playing snooker golf. I think it was on a 5x10. It might have been on a 6x12. I'm not sure. But he ran 13 holes in a row. And he used to play, excuse me, on the bar table. And I gambled with him a couple times. Cashman and Stanley Fimple. And man, there was a lot of action around the country at that time. So I got seasoned playing those guys up there when I was still in high school. So I'd go up there when I was in high school on a Friday after I got out. It was a 5-hour drive, so I'd get out of school at 3:15, leave by about 4 or 5, and get there by about 10 o'clock. And then I could play for 4 hours, and I had some guys I'd stay with up there or get hotel room. See, I had a snow cone business when I was started it when I was 9. So by the time I was 16, I had $22,000 saved up in the bank, and I bought a brand new car for $18,000. So I guess in today's money, I probably had about $80,000 value from selling snow cones. That was a great business. My mother got me into that, and we used to freeze the water in milk jugs and then cut them open and crush up the ice and put them in the snow cone machine and crush it up. And then I would go to these farm sales that she was clerking and sell them. And I'd make like, 200 or 300 in a day, and it was about 95% profit. So it was like printing money. And she'd make me go up to the town square and set up and sell snow cones after school for like an hour and a half a day to establish my work ethic. Give me something consistent to do, because I was making so much money at those sales. And we go to flea markets, and in 1976 bicentennial year, they had a carnival at my or a fair at my little town of Green City, Missouri, on the town square. And I remember I made $1,700 that weekend when I was 12 years old. So, I've always been in business and business minded, and I thank my mother for teaching me business like that. I think it's way stronger to learn as a kid than to go to a business school. They teach you just kind of boilerplate type stuff. But what you learn on your own is, you got to think outside the box, and you got to be creative, and and that's something I'd recommend to any parent is get your kids, selling lemonade or snow cones or a paper route we used to do. Stuff like that, of course, isn't in existence anymore because of internet and the digital world. But some mosquitoes coming out. I've got I'm a little bit late today, so the sun's starting to go down, so the mosquitoes start coming out. So yeah, then Rick Thompson lived in St. Joe, Missouri, so I would I'd drive over there. It was on the way to Omaha, really, and so it's north of Kansas City, so I would pick him up, and we'd go up to Omaha for the weekend. And he could beat most of those players. He couldn't beat John. I mean, Omaha John was on another level, but I think he played about even with Mike Highland, and him and Bucky Bell played a few times. And it was pretty close. I don't know. On a given day, probably either one of them could have won. And I just steadily got better being around, those older guys, and got seasoned, so that when I was 17, or maybe right into my 18th year, I won the world, or the National High School Championships, and then won the World Series of Tavern Pool when I was 21 with 756 players. And I was a seasoned road player, of course, by the time I won the National High School Championships, I was already established as a known gambler. And people would talk about, my name, but they didn't know my face. That's how come I started using fake names. And I was Mike Holst from Marion, Indiana, and Chris from Missouri, and Butch from Tennessee. And I've told the story about Omaha John being down at the tournament. They were arguing over who the best young player in the country was. And they were all three names that I'd used while I was with him. So, but that'll never happen again because, the internet, these phones right here, all you got to do is take a picture of somebody and put it out there on Facebook or social media or a forum, and man, you'll have all kinds of people wanting to knock the guy, which back in the day was disgraceful. Now it's like, they wear it like a badge of honor. It's funny. We call them gamma males, and some of those forums we call them gamma hives, because they all, like Reddit, they all gather there to help knock down people that they're jealous of, usually. But they serve a purpose. Like I told you, my high school basketball coach was like that, and he tried to knock me down. But see, you can always reframe that stuff. And, no matter what somebody says or does, it's up to you how you react. It's up to you how you take that experience and either spin it into something positive or negative. I just have a natural way of spinning everything into a positive. And, that's a physical, mental, and spiritual thing. And it's learned. I've studied this stuff for many, many, many years, and have a natural curiosity for not just the highest levels of pool, but the highest levels of everything. Who are we really? Why are we here, really? What are we supposed to be doing? All these questions are answered, but in the ancient manuscripts, they're once the people that are in control and actually, have been ruling things, the kings and the queens and the royal bloodlines, all of our leaders are related to them or in with them. It's not a conspiracy, it's a system. It's called the beast system. And it's highly sophisticated, but once you can see it, you can't unsee it. And, you know, you can tell what they're up to, but there's a lot of people that are totally ignorant to these levels of hustles. That's how come I like talking about these pool hustles, because once you understand those, you know, it's not that hard to understand the higher level ones, because they all use the same type strategy, the same way of, you know, getting people to drop their guard. At the highest levels, they just never tell you the truth. So you never have a reference for anything. You got to have an acid test for truth. You got to be able to dip that situation that you're pondering into something that is a reference. We call it a referential index for, you know, what is true. And like I said, those sources are, you know, been altered and changed through these last few thousand years. But they're still available. And that's one thing about the internet. It's a double-edged sword. You know, they can use it to put out disinformation, but if you know how to search, you can always find a lot of really cool stuff. But again, if you don't have a reference for truth, you wouldn't know. Anyway, it gets complicated sometimes, but it's just fun to talk about the old days in pool, because if it wasn't for that seasoning, I call it a PhD, a pool hole degree. I think it's way more valuable than going to Harvard or Yale or one of those Ivy School. Man, you want to talk about what they're doing to kids now. You know, especially the women that go in there that come out totally different. It's really, really weird, you know. Indoctrination, programming under the disguise of education. Anyway, till next time, this is CJ. The game is the teacher.